Here we are on the second day of notes for Chapter 3, Lesson 1, which is Earth's History. We pretty much have a page full, so we're going to go ahead and flip it over to the back side. And you can still see the fold down the middle, so we don't need to do that again. We have our pencil. We have red and blue pens or colored pencils or crayons to do some underlining if we need to. Okay, the fossil record. Capital F-O-S-S-I-L, record, capital R-E-C-O-R-D. Fossil record. A fossil is the preserved remains or traces of an organism that lived in the distant past. Okay, we have that in our vocabulary. Fossils are often found in layers of sediment and are important to the rock record. Information they provide about Earth's history is called the fossil record. So let's see. Found in sediment. Fossils, F-O-S-S-I-L-S. Found, F-O-U-N-D. N-I-N. Sediment, S-E-D-I-M-E-N-T. And we know what sediment is, the loose dirt and gravel and rocks and pebbles and small little things that get moved around by water or weathering, wind, and erosion. Information they provide about Earth's history is called the fossil record. Okay, so quote-unquote fossil, F-O-S-S-I-L, record, R-E-C-O-R-D, close quotes, equals info, I-N-F-O, which is short for information, slash, quote, memory, M-E-M-O-R-Y, close quotes. I'm adding that word memory. They didn't use it. But the fossil record's kind of like a memory of what has happened in the past in Earth. So if a million-year-old fish died a million years ago but got buried in the sand and its bones get preserved, that's kind of like a memory of that fish. Fossils are evidence of the plants, animals, and other organisms that lived long ago. By studying fossils, scientists get an idea of what now extinct organisms looked like and how they lived. Okay, so it's evidence of plants, animals. Evidence, E-V-I-D-E-N-C-E, of plants, P-L-A-N-T-S, slash animals, A-N-I-M-A-L-S. Underneath that, let's put organisms, O-R-G-A-N-I-S-M-S. So organisms is kind of a word that encompasses plants and animals and other living things like viruses and bacteria, mushrooms and fungi and algae and all those kind of things. And evidence is like proof of something, right? So if you find bones buried in the sand, well, there must have been some animal that used those bones to move around. It was a living creature at one time. Notice that they talk about now extinct organisms. Not all fossils have to be extinct creatures, but a lot of them are because they're so old. Okay, so let's see. An idea of how they looked, what they looked like, and how they lived. Okay, so underneath evidence, we're going to do a little indent. Look, L-O-O-K, like, L-I-K-E, question mark. How, H-O-W, lived, L-I-V-E-D, question mark. So let's imagine we find these bones of a fish, but it's inside the stomach area of some other creature. Well, then you might be able to guess or infer that that creature liked to eat that fish when it used to live. How fossils form. Notice it's a new heading, but it's in black, so I'm going to use my pencil. How, capital H-O-W, fossils, capital F-O-S-S-I-L-S, form, capital F-O-R-M. F-O-R-M. Typically, fossils come from an animal's bones, shells, or other hard parts. These parts are not easily decomposed or eaten. Hard parts also resist weathering by wind and rain. So if the bones are the hard parts, then they don't decompose as fast, they don't wear down or weather or erode as fast. There's a chance that they'll stay around longer. To be preserved as a fossil, a dead organism usually must be buried quickly. Burial protects it from air, rain, and wind. It also hides it from scavengers and many decomposers. Eventually, the soft parts decay, leaving the hard parts behind. Over time, minerals dissolved in water collect in the pores of a shell or bone. The minerals preserve the shape and size of these parts, and the organism becomes a fossil. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're saying here. Number 1, a dead fish sinks to the ocean floor. Many layers of sediment cover it. So let's say a dead fish is laying on the floor of the ocean, and over time, sediment and dirt gets on top of it and buries it. Water, carrying minerals, seeps into spaces inside the fish's bones. So this is kind of like how caves form. Remember how we had water that was a little bit acidic could erode certain types of rock and leave behind a cave? Well, in this case, water that has certain types of minerals, the minerals will kind of swap out and replace the bones, and you'll end up with the minerals in a different color or a different type of rock. Minerals replace the bones, forming a fossil. So the fossil is actually a different type of rock or a different type of mineral in the shape of those bones. So when you see a fossil or you touch a fossil, you're not touching the animal's bones anymore. You're touching minerals that have replaced those bones. So they're in the same shape and size. It's kind of like filling a hole. Okay, let's see if we can let's go ahead and do like some pictures like this, right? So we need 3 pictures, and we're going to do them in sequence of events. So number 1, let's do this. Number 1, dead, D-E-A-D, buried, B-U-R-I-E-D. So something dead basically has to get buried, right? Okay, let's draw like a little fish, and there's its tail, and here's its head, and we'll put a little X at the eyeballs. Maybe its little tongue sticks out like, bleh, it's dead. And there's a little fin, and there's a dorsal fin. Okay, so that's our little dead fish. Now, here is like the bottom layer it landed on, right? But remember, it has to get buried by sediment. So let's draw a couple lines. In the big one, let's do some hashed lines like this. And then in the top one, let's just kind of put some dots. So we kind of get the idea that we have 2 different layers. So the dead gets buried. Okay, let's go over here in the middle and let's do picture number 2. Water carrying minerals seeps into spaces inside the fish's bones. Oh, okay. So minerals, M-I-N-E-R-A-L-S, seep, S-E-E-P, in, I-N. So that means they kind of slowly work their way into where the bones are, right? So let's redraw that fish with the tail and the dorsal fin and its little flipper and the X and the I and the tongue sticking out. And let's draw like these arrows that they're kind of drawing here. So arrows, squiggly line arrow, squiggly line arrow. And that's the minerals seeping into the bones. Okay, let's draw the bones in the middle of the fish. Here's its spine and its ribs. Little lines coming out of that. Now, number 3, minerals replace the bones, forming a fossil. So for number 3, let's say fossil, F-O-S-S-I-L, and let's only draw the bone. So here's like the backbone, here's the rib bones, and the bones get tinier and smaller as they go towards the tail, and maybe there's a tailbone and there's a tailbone. And then let's draw like a head bone with a hole for where the eye was. Okay, now let's go ahead and write some words that they have here. Let's see. Fossils are normally hard parts, right? So over here, number 1, dead, buried. Let's put, oh, wait a second, you know what? Let's put it over here where fossil is. Hard, H-A-R-D, parts, P-A-R-T-S, because the fossil ends up being the hard parts. Has to be buried quickly. Okay, dead, buried quickly. Quickly. And that means like, you know, a matter of days or weeks or months, something like that. Something really days and weeks. Fast enough that nothing comes along and chews on the bones, or like bacteria don't break the bones down, or, you know, it doesn't get rained on and washed away. Something pretty quick. Okay, let's see. Eventually the soft parts decay, leaving behind the hard parts. So that kind of happens while the minerals are seeping in, right? That happens both in step 1 and step 2. Soft, S-O-F-T, parts, P-A-R-T-S, decay, D-E-C-A-Y. So the soft parts decay and eventually like disappear, get eaten, get washed away by the minerals seeping in, that sort of thing. We talked about the minerals coming into the pores. It preserves the shape and size. Oh, let's say that. Okay, minerals seep in right here. Preserve, P-R-E-S-E-R-V-E. Shape, S-H-A-P-E. And, down 3 down, size, S-I-Z-E. So the fossil ends up being the same shape and same size as the original bones used to be. And we can see that in our pictures and the fossils that we find. Even with plants, the imprint or the shape left behind, same size, same shape as the original leaf. Plants and animals without hard parts can also create fossils. These organisms make imprints, like leaving a footprint in mud or snow. So up here where we said fossil, let's say or imprint, I-M-P-R-I-N-T, imprint. Such imprints are called trace fossils. A trace fossil of a leaf, for example, may look like a very detailed drawing of a leaf. Trace fossils can be prints of body parts, such as feet or tails, or they can show the whole organism. So it is a trace fossil. It leaves a trace behind, or it's something you can track or trace down, like when we trace something with a pencil you follow, right? So if you find a trace fossil, you can use this to kind of track down what leaves used to look like. You see the little one there, a big one here, another one there. Okay, we looked at all our pictures, we did all our reading. Let's go to the next one. Relative dating. Okay, capital R-E-L-A-T-I-V-E, dating, capital D-A-T-I-N-G. How can scientists tell the age of a fossil? Well, that's a good question. Like if you have a rock, how do you know how old it is? Is it 3 weeks old or 3 million years old? One way is to study the strata of sedimentary rock where the fossil was found. Okay, remember strata is layers. Sedimentary rock is the rocks that are made out of sediment. Like over time, sand piles up, and it hardens and it turns into rock. Recall that the oldest strata are on the bottom and the more recent are on top. Scientists infer that fossils are about the same age as the rock around them. Okay, so the rock down here at the bottom is the oldest. Up here towards the top, it's the newest or youngest. And they're going to say this fish is about as old as this rock that it's buried in. And that makes sense, right? Wherever it gets buried, that sand was there at the same time the fish was there. So they're probably about the same age. This is called relative dating. It does not tell a fossil's exact age, but does allow scientists to compare the ages of fossils from different rock strata. Oh, okay, so if this fish is down here at the bottom, and then there's another fish way up here at the top, you could probably assume or infer that the fish at the bottom is much older than the fish at the top. And the more layers there are, the more different their ages are. Okay, so relative dating, let's see. Strata, S-T-R-A-T-A, parentheses, layers, L-A-Y-E-R-S, arrow, relative, R-E-L-A-T-I-V-E, age, A-G-E. And relative means, we're kind of close, we're kind of guessing, right? So we get close, C-L-O-S-E, or it's like a guess. Not just a random guess, but an educated guess, an inference. Okay, remember the oldest on top and bottom? Let's see, I think we have that in our notes. Where did we talk about strata? We talked about layers of sediment. We talked about how similar layers could be in different parts of the world. So let's go ahead and write that over here in relative dating. Underneath strata layers, old, OLD, equals bottom, BOTTOM. New, NEW, equals top, TOP. All right. Oh, this is important. Fossils are about the same age as the rock around them. So, fossil, FOSSIL, age, AGE. And we're going to do an equals sign, but it's going to be a squiggly equals. Squiggly equals like that. Fossil age, squiggly equals rock age, ROCK, AGE. So what that means is the fossil's age is about the same as the rock around it. Okay, that's called relative dating. It's not exact. Let's put that up here. Not, N-O-T, exact, E-X-A-C-T. Not exact. All right, clues about the past. Capital C, L-U-E-S, about, capital A-B-O-U-T, past, capital P, A-S-T. Clues about past. Some fossils provide clues to the climate and environment in which the organism lived. For example, a fossil of a tropical fern indicates that the land was once warm, humid, and marshy, the kind of environment in which tropical ferns thrive. Okay, so if you have a rock with a tropical fern imprinted on it, then you know that it was warm and humid and marshy, where those plants like to live. But if that rock is buried underneath the ocean, then you know things changed. That tropical environment eventually got covered up by sand and sediment and also by ocean. When scientists find fossils of fish far from water, they know that the climate of the area was once very different. The rock layer containing the fish fossil must have formed underwater. In fact, in Earth's geologic past, shallow seas once covered parts of the United States. Fossils of the same plant and animal species have been found on different continents. How could this be explained? Interesting. Okay, so the fossil can provide environmental clues, clues about past. Okay, fossil, F-O-S-S-I-L, arrow, clue, C-L-U-E, about, A-B-O-U-T, environment, E-N-V-I-R-O-N-M-E-N-T, environment. In other words, the weather, the climate. Was it a hot place? Was it a dry place? Was it cold and wet? What sort of plants and animals lived there? What was it like every day? All right. Something about the fish being far from water and the climate being different and the formation of the layers. So, fossils are a clue about environment. Indent here, climate, C-L-I-M-A-T-E. Could've, C-O-U-L-D, apostrophe, V-E. Changed, C-H-A-N-G-E-D. So the climate could have changed. It could have been a wet place with water for fish, and now it could be buried underneath layers and layers of sediment or sand, and that means that the climate changed. Just like they were saying here, how there used to be shallow seas covering the United States. Well, now it's all dry land. And here we go. Same plant and animals on different continents. Something's going on there. Same, S-A-M-E, organisms, O-R-G-A-N-I-S-M-S, slash different, D-I-F-F-E-R-E-N-T, continents, C-O-N-T-I-N-E-N-T-S. So you could find the same organisms on different continents. So it's not just climate and weather changing and getting buried under layers of rock, but the continents might be moving. Oh. All right, let's see if we can answer our question. What evidence does a fossil provide? Okay, a fossil provides evidence of plants and animals. In other words, all the organisms that used to live in an area. It also provides evidence of their relative age. So if you find a fossil very deep in the rock, then it's old. But if you find a fossil towards the top of the rock or the strata layers, then it's a young fossil. It can give you a clue about the animals, right? So where did we say that? It gives you clues about what they looked like or how they lived. For example, what climate they lived in, or maybe what kind of things they ate. And anything else? Oh, okay, this thing about different continents, their location, right? It gives you clues about where were these things found in ancient Earth's history. All right, so we can use our notes to answer that question, so that's a good thing. Good job persevering with the growth mindset, and roar, Wildcats.